Good morning, everybody. I don't like Mondays. I don't like Mondays. And so on, the Boomtown Rats. Today's Monday. And actually I wanted to do a Sunday sum up here on my channel, but today's Monday. It's Monday morning, it's 7 o'clock and I have to go to work soon. I want to talk to you about my reading week that lies behind me and the reading week that lies ahead of me. Let's go! Sort of bringing me a little bit of coffee, which is very, very important and very desired in the morning to wake me up. It was a short night, a couple of hours sleep only. So let's talk about the books that I finished last week. I finished two of them, two books. I returned to audiobooks. I finished one audiobook that I was so excited by listening to the author who read it actually, that I finished it within 3 days. And it was a nonfiction book. It was a nonfiction book that deals with the state of the world. The war in Ukraine is actually not the topic of the book. Yes, it is, but it's about the background of it. And I finished a book by the Yale professor of history, Timothy Snyder, who wrote his book and published his book, The Road to Unfreedom, Russia, Europe, America, already in 2018. And my gosh, Timothy Snyder is reading himself. What a book this is. I mean, this guy and the world, actually, the world that had read things, the world that had seen things, the world that had heard things, this world, the academic world of historians, of well-educated historians like Snyder, they already knew what was going to happen. And even the analysts everywhere must have known what was going to happen in Ukraine. Timothy Snyder describes the state of Russia, the government of Russia, and he also, in this book, The Road to Unfreedom, he describes the foundation of ideology on which the regime of Vladimir Vladimirovich Putin is based. And it's a regime of fascism. Fascism that Snyder nowadays, after he published that book, where he already uses the term schizofascism, has become more and more schizo-fascistic. Timothy Snyder describes two kinds of politics. It's the politics of eternity and the politics of inevitability. It's happening in most of the democratic countries in the West, like Germany, like Sweden, and even the United States, is the politics of inevitability. That means that progress is being made from generation to generation and that things develop and things change. We have, if you look back at the last 100 years, we have voting rights for women. We have voting rights for people with other skin colors than white in the United States, luckily. We have gay marriage. We have the possibility to abortion in Germany. We have, like in Germany, we have abolished a law that was, I think, valid until in the 1970s that abolished even not gay marriage, but gay relationships. Homosexuality was punishable in Germany until in the 1970s. And that has all changed because Snyder says this is inevitable, that we are changing, that we are marching further, that we are getting more and more insights and change the way we think and change also our laws and make it more liberal. On the other side of the spectrum, you have the politics of eternity. And that would be, for example, Russia. And eternity means that the state of the world is not supposed to change. The state of the world that the politics of eternity is looking for is a state that has been. And all the changes that happen in the world, like climate change, like voting rights, they change so much of that society, of that world, that people fight against the politics, this politics of inevitability, because they don't want change. And in Russia, for example, you see even today when you listen to Russian TV, when you listen to Vladimir Putin, he says that the West, and that is us, the West is corrupt, the West is homosexual, the West is transsexual, and horrible developments in the West. The West is trying to destroy the innocent Russian soul, the innocent Russian values that are existing, not telling the people. I have been to Russia in 1992, in 1993 for 6 months in total. I loved being there. It was a beautiful time. I loved the people. I had great friendships over there. So don't get me wrong. But I went to a very poor country. And actually one of the questions that I asked myself in 1992, apart from the nuclear robots they have, of course, is why were we so afraid of this country that was economically a third world country? Because in the places where I've been at the time in 1992, there was so much need for reparations, for roads that were abandoned, roads there were stray dogs everywhere in the town where I lived. There were energy coming from big pipes that were on the surface of the earth. Energy was just wasted because there were holes in those pipes, and it was really an experience of coming to a country where I didn't understand why we were so afraid of it. But is that really the case, that the innocence, the beautiful, that is to be protected? The politics of eternity, they look back to a point in the past where everything was beautiful, where life was just a paradise, and we don't want to change. We don't want gay marriage. But this is the point, that a country with the politics of eternity feels itself is always threatened by others, because you need the threats from the outside, you need to construct them, you need to fictionalize them if they are not there, in order to preserve the power of those who benefit from the politics of eternity. And what I was astonished by is that Snyder is really sort of leading the thoughts of Vladimir Putin and his people who are fighting this war against Ukraine, this terrorist war against Ukraine, that this is based on fascist ideology. He names a couple of people. One is a guy named Ivan Ilyin, who lived from, I think, 1890 something to in the 1950s. He was a fascist philosopher, Russian nationalist, fascist philosopher that Putin has quoted how many times, dozens of times already, and that has been sort of praised by official Russia today. And another person who is still alive, he's my age, is Alexander Dugin, who is a fascist ideologist who's very dangerous. He's like a Steve Bannon of Russia, but far more educated than Bannon is. And he is formulating the claims that Russia is threatened and that Russia is innocent and the Russian soul is the most beautiful thing on earth and it has to be preserved, and the only thing to preserve it is to have weapons to sort of fight off the morally Babylon world that is on the outside. It is the so-called West with all its horrible values and homosexuality. Yeah, that's what they think. Those thinkers like Dugin and Ilyin and Strakhanov and Putin, in the end, who's not a thinker, but he's somebody who acts on this kind of ideology. And then in that book, Timothy Snyder is also talking a lot about America and how the American election campaign of 2016 has been influenced by Russia. And actually, it was Russia who made Donald Trump president in 2016 by supporting. There's so many links that Snyder talks about between the Trump election campaign and Russia that is just incredible. And there's so many links also between Russia and the Brexit campaign in the UK. The Brexit that was 52% for the Brexit and 48% against the Brexit. And these 4% might have been, probably, have been initiated by a huge internet campaign that Russia has launched in order to separate Britain from the UK, to strengthen its own position in the world and in Europe. And I don't want to talk so much more about Timothy Snyder's book, but it's essential to read it. It's essential to listen to it. I listened to it, and it's beautiful to hear his voice. He reads a very good voice reading his book. And he sort of shows also the parallels. I talked about he talked about the politics of eternity, and also the politics of eternity, of course, are represented in the Trump campaign when you have a slogan called "Make America Great Again," which means that you focus on a point in the past, exactly what Russia is doing, what the Russian fascists are doing. Focus to a point in the past where everything was beautiful, and focus against everything that sort of destroys this kind of innocence, that kind of American innocence. Make America Great Again. There was American innocence, but then came gay marriage and trans people and brown people and black people, and everything was destroyed. I mean, there's so many parallels that I was reminded of the song, "Parallels I see all, the parallels I see all," by one of my favorite bands, Big Thief. There's so many parallels between this politics of eternity in Russia, the fascist Russian government, and, let me say, the features of fascism that are existing in the United States and that actually were supported by Russia. Incredible book. And he also shows that Timothy Snyder in that book that the Russians also try to influence Europe with their campaigns, and all the right-wing campaigns in Europe are supported by them. So we have to really be careful to not go too far on the road to Unfreedom. Timothy Snyder, a very readable book, a very important book, if you are thinking political in a way, because everybody has to think political, right? Because I know so many people, and even in the US where I have so many friends, people say, no, we're not interested in politics, we don't talk politics. But the day you lose your freedom, the day after you lost your freedom, you realize how important politics are, and that you had to say something, but you didn't do when it was time. So do it, read it, and raise your voice. The second book that I finished was Cut You Down by Sam Wiebe. That was beautifully given to me by the channel The Quiet Midden a couple of years ago, almost 2 years ago actually. And I finished this. This is about Vancouver. It's the second book in the Dave Wakeland detective series. There's a third book already out. I think it came out this year, and I ordered it already. It's on the way to me. Dave Wakeland is a PI, a private investigator in Vancouver. He reminds a lot of Philip Marlowe and a lot of Lee Archer, but he's living in our time. He's living in the 2010s or 2020s, and he's in Vancouver, Canada, not in Los Angeles, California. And Vancouver is such a beautiful city. I've been there. I loved it. And he describes this city so intense and so noir as you can do it. And also the Pacific Northwest. Let me read. And he's so great in writing. He's Dave Wakeland. He's always on the move. You know, Wakeland is always in his car. He's driving there and there. He goes to this place. He buys a Japadoc. At the end of the book, the fast food chain that's only, I think, available in British Columbia. And I already also ate a Japadoc when I was in Vancouver. So that's really fascinating. What struck me driving down through the Pacific Northwest was the lack of grandeur of so many other towns. To put up a Vancouver or Seattle seemed understandable, but to carve deep into the endless green and blue, to clear-cut forests and redirect waterways, all to erect a dirty brick train station, a plastic coffee hut, and yet another outlet mall with a drive-through bank and family restaurant, seemed the choice of an insane creature that would rather stare at its own feces than. So I'm back because the battery was the camera was a little bit overheated, so I had to take a little break. Cut You Down by Sam Wiebe. I was talking about this book. It's a great detective novel. If you like this kind of stuff, then it really will be a page-turner for you. It was a page-turner for me that kept me up until 1:30 in the morning this morning when I finished it. And I can't wait to get the third one of the Dave Wakeland series. And please, Sam Wiebe, write more Dave Wakeland stories. They're absolutely great. I love it. This week, I'm going to read, we have don't say all the time. We have the European Championships in women's football that is called soccer in the United States. Played in England right now. The first round is over. 16 teams have played. France and Germany were most impressive, I think. And maybe I will travel to the semifinals and final in England if I get in there. I don't know. I have a so-called tournament pass from the UEFA, but you have to sort of apply for accreditation as a journalist for each and every game. And I will apply for the semifinals and the final, and maybe I will get in there. I don't know. There are many people who want to get in there. And ticket-wise, if you want to be a normal spectator, both the semifinals in Milton Keynes and Sheffield and the final in London Wembley are already sold out. But let's go to the books that I read. And so this will affect my reading a little bit over the next weeks that I watch a lot of football, 2 games each and every day right now. Tonight we have England-Norway and we have Northern Ireland against Austria. So what I'm reading next week is, among other things, I still continue with The Avery by Dave Eggers. So it's a thick book, a big book, 450 pages book, and I'm in 160, and I was sort of, Sam Wiebe got more of the time, and even the book by Timothy Snyder got more of the time this week, my reading time last week. And also I'm going to start this one, At Dusk. Look at the cover, At Dusk by Hwang Sok-yun, which is a Korean author, and this is translated from the Korean by Sarah Kim Russell, and it is published by Scribe. I'm reading this together with Katja. Katja Weinert is her channel. Put a link down below. We start reading this week. And that's everything I had to say. Thanks very much. Have a great week. From Tuesday on, when you see this, it's probably Monday evening or Monday afternoon or Tuesday morning maybe already. So have a great reading week, have a great living week, and see you very soon with Booker predictions. Bye-bye.